Hey, you know what time it is. Hey, you know what time it is. It's story time with Chris. Hallelujah. Hi. You know what time it is. Woo! Yes! Get into it. Get into it. Yes! We're back. There we go. Do. All right, we're back with a new book that we're reading on Tuesdays and Thursdays. A new series of stories that we'll be reading on Tuesdays and Thursdays for my teenagers, more so for like 13 through 18. But this is a series that I grew up listening to on audiobook, and as well as picking up the novels and reading them. Bruce Coville is one of the most influential childhood authors I've ever had the pleasure of reading, besides John R. Erickson, aka the Hank the Cowdog series, which hopefully once I email him, I can get permission to read that on here, which, yes, I'm not playing. I don't have to make this up. I think I actually did do a video of the signed copy of my favorite book out of the Hank the Cowdog series, which is Murder on the Middle Pasture. And he wrote a beautiful note, him and his wife, and I need to correspond with him. So thank y'all for reminding me for that. But anyway, I love unicorns. I love the last unicorn movie. I love any mentions of it with the movie Legend, starring Tom Cruise and... No, not Jennifer Connelly. It's another well-known actress, and her name is escaping me right now. Forgive me. It's gonna come to me in a second. But Legend also features unicorns as like the main focus of the plot. Unicorns are just awesome. Like, even in The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, aka the last book of the Chronicles of Narnia, King Tyrion is his name. His best friend is a unicorn, and it's amazing. But we're going to get into this story about a young girl named Kara Diana Hunter, who is being raised by her grandmother, Ivy Morris. And they've been constantly on the run from these black-robed figures that consistently follow them. And we're going to find out why that is and get introduced into the world of the unicorns and other magical creatures. Now, in this particular series, there's Into the Land of the Unicorns, Song of the Wanderer, Dark Whispers, and then is it The Last Hunt? Is the fourth book? Anyway, we'll read all of those. And they're not super long until we get into the later versions. Oh, okay. So, didn't realize that the author dedicated this book for Kara. So, I'm assuming Kara is his daughter. Let's go ahead, get into it. Chapter 1. The Hunter. Grandma, is that man following us? Kara's grandmother glanced over her shoulder toward the library. When she turned back, her face was twisted in a look that Kara had never seen before. Tightening her grip on the girl's hand, the old woman began to walk faster. Kara felt a sudden knot in her stomach. She had expected Grandmother Morris to say, "Don't be silly, child," as she usually did when Kara expressed some unlikely fear. She certainly hadn't expected her to act as if she took that fear seriously. Stretching her legs to keep up, Kara asked, "Where are we going?" She tried not to whine. "I'm not sure," muttered Grandmother Morris. "Are we in danger?" "Yes." Kara's stomach grew even tighter. "How do you know?" "Hush, child. I don't have breath to waste on talking." Clutching her new library books, Kara bumped against bundles and packages as they scurried through the crowds of last-minute shoppers. A light snow had started to fall a little while ago, and it had just enough time to cover the bright holiday decorations, making everything look crisp and white. Though it was hard to imagine any harm coming to them in this time of good cheer and fellowship, her grandmother's fear was unmistakable and catching. "In here," said Grandmother Morris, suddenly pulling Kara's arm to steer her to the right. They went down a narrow street, little more than an alley, really, and turned in through the side entrance of St. Christopher's. Kara knew the church well. They had come here often with Simon, her grandmother's gentleman friend. The building was dark and quiet inside. Grandmother Morris led the way to a pew near the back of the sanctuary, where they huddled together while the old woman caught her breath. "I don't think he saw us come in," said Kara softly. The statement had more of hope than reality in it. She actually had no time and no idea whether their pursuer had seen them enter. After a moment, Grandmother Morris removed a chain from around her neck. "Put this on," she said, handing it to Kara. Kara's eyes widened. "You're special?" she asked. This was almost more frightening than the problem of the man who was following them. Grandmother Morris's special, as Kara had referred to it, the locket that dangled from the chain had been off limits for as long as she could remember. Despite the time she had had the gold and crystal amulet, she could barely bring herself to take it from her grandmother's hand. She felt accepting it would somehow confirm that the world was twisting out of shape. "Take it," said her grandmother sternly. "Put it on. You may need it before this is over." "Before what is over?" "No time to talk," hissed her grandmother. "Take it." Trying not to make a sound, Kara placed her books on the pew. Then reluctantly she closed her hand with a bauble. Her fingers began to tingle. Beneath the amulet's crystal lid lay a tightly coiled strand of white hair. "It came from a unicorn's mane," her grandmother had told her when she was little, and Kara had believed her until sometime around second grade, when she finally understood that unicorns were imaginary. "What will I need it for?" she asked as she slipped the chain over her head. Grandmother Morris leaned forward and rubbed her brow with her fingertips. "Do you think I'm crazy?" she whispered. Kara felt another twinge of fear. What kind of question is that? She wondered. Before she could even decide how to answer, they heard a step in the hall, followed by the creak, ever so slight, of a door swinging open. It was the same door, Kara was sure, that they themselves had come through when they entered the sanctuary. Silence. Was their hunter standing there waiting for them? To Kara's astonishment, her grandmother slid to the floor, ducking her head so she was hidden by the pew in front of her. She tugged at Kara to indicate that she should do the same. When Kara had joined her, the old woman began to move toward the center aisle of the church. Kara followed. The pews were too close together for them to drop to their knees and crawl. They moved instead by a sort of scooting method until they came to the end of the pew. Then her grandmother did drop to her hands and knees. No sound yet from the open door where their pursuers stood waiting, and no chance for Kara to question her grandmother as to what was going on. When they reached the back of the church, they huddled together behind the last pew. 6 or 7 feet ahead of them loomed a pair of large wooden doors, impossible to open without drawing the attention of the pursuer. Kara stared at them the way a traveler in the desert might stare at an unclimbable glass wall behind which lay a pool of clear water. They waited. No sound came from the front of the church. Was the man still there? Or had he closed the door so silently they had heard and gone on to search elsewhere? How long would they have to stay like this? Who was he anyway? Lots of mystery. Lots of mystery. Kara trembled and tried not to cry as the questions and the fear swept through her. Raising her hand to her neck, she clutched the special. The feel of it brought back an old memory, something she could glimpse only in tatters and fragments. It was from just before she had lost her parents. She had been 2, maybe 3 years old and very ill. Her grandmother had stayed by her bed for many hours. When she had finally been forced by another emergency to leave, she had assented to Kara's pleading and left the amulet behind. It was the first and only time Kara had had the special to herself. She had clutched it tightly as she drifted in and out of fever dreams, and in that time she tossed and moaned on the bed, glimpsing something had come to her. She remembered only a glimpse of a white and a sense of peace. Then something had touched her, a touch that was fierce and hard, both hot and cold at once. In that moment the fever had broken. That was all that remained to her of a memory that tugged and creased in the years that followed, slowly fading from the surface, yet never leaving altogether. As she grew older, she told herself that it had been a hallucination, a side effect of the fever. Yet whenever she thought of the incident, she had a sense of something altogether unearthly having brushed her at life. At times she had even longed to be ill again and hoped that she might once more experience the strange mystery of that night. She could certainly use a little magic right now. She blinked. How long had she been sitting there, lost in memories? With some discomfort, she realized that her leg was going to sleep beneath her. Grandmother Morris leaned close in a voice so soft that Kara could barely hear it, even though the old woman's lips were brushing against her ear. She whispered, "We have to get out of here. We're going to crawl to those doors as silently as we can. I will push one open. You go through first. Be ready to run if I give the word." Kara nodded. Hoping that her sleeping leg wouldn't betray her, she tipped herself forward and began to crawl. The beating of her heart seemed to pound in her ears, the sound so loud she wondered that it alone did not alert their pursuer. Grandmother Morris was close behind her, and what of the man who was stalking? Was he still here, or had he given up, leaving them to fear nothing but shadows? The smooth floor was cold beneath Kara's hands. The door was warmer and carved with designs that her fingers couldn't quite decipher. "Be ready," whispered Grandmother Morris, kneeling beside Kara. She began to push on the door. Kara wedged her way into the opening, scarcely daring to breathe. She was halfway across the threshold when her grandmother cried, "Run, Kara, run!" Springing to her feet, Kara bolted for the next set of doors, the ones leading to the outside. She grabbed the handles, then cried out in despair. The doors were locked. Chapter 2. Leap of Faith. Kara turned, frantic with fear. "This way!" cried Grandmother Morris, grabbing her hand. They hurried through a small door at the side of the foyer. Inside, a set of narrow stairs spiraled up in a tight curve. Turning, Grandmother Morris shot the bolt in an old-fashioned latch. They started upward. They had gone about 10 steps when Kara heard someone slam into the door. The hunter. He slammed into it again, and she realized he was not just venting his anger, he was trying to break it down. She didn't need her grandmother's urging to move faster. Heart pounding, she climbed as fast as she could, spiraling up into the darkness, ignoring the prickling of the pins and needles that tingled along her leg. They came to a small landing. Kara heard a click as a dim light came on overhead. Her grandmother was leaning against the wall, one hand still on the light switch, the other pushing back loose strands of long gray hair. A thick rope ran through the center of the room, entering through a hole in the ceiling, leaving through a hole in the floor. Another crash below. This time they could hear wood splintering. The door was not yet down, but it was clear that it was not going to last much longer. "Do you have the amulet?" asked her grandmother. Kara nodded. "Good. Hold fast to it and listen to me. I'm going to ring the bell. It may bring help, but we can't be sure that it will come in time to save the amulet." "The amulet?" thought Kara. "What about us?" "Here is what you must do," continued her grandmother. "Climb to the top of the tower. The roof is flat, with a low wall surrounding it. Count the tolling of the bell. On the 12th stroke, press the amulet tight to your chest and whisper, 'Luster, bring me home.' Then," the old woman faltered, closed her eyes. Across her face moved a strange mixture of fear and longing, joy and loss. Kara shivered again with a new kind of fear, like that brought on by the pursuer. "And then?" she prompted. Her grandmother flinched at the sound of another crash from below. Turning to Kara, she looked her full in the eyes. "Then," she whispered, "you must jump." Kara stared at her grandmother in disbelief. The question the old woman had asked in the sanctuary, "Do you think I'm crazy?" took on a new and terrifying meaning. Before she could even think of what to say, they heard another crash from below. "That door won't last much longer," whispered Grandmother Morris. "He must not find the amulet. Climb, Kara, for your life and for more than you can imagine. I have been there, my love, and it is wonderful. Do not be afraid. Hold the special. Count the chimes. Throw yourself to the wind. And this I promise, you will see unicorns." But another crash from below. "Climb!" urged her grandmother, flinging herself onto the rope and pulling it down with all the weight of her slender body. "Climb! The amulet must not fall into his hands." "Who is he?" asked Kara. The look of pain and sorrow that glanced through her grandmother's eyes was heart-stopping. The old woman shook her head as if driving away some unwelcome thought. "There is no time for talk," she replied, shouting to be heard above the tolling of the bell. Suddenly the rope surged up, pulling her with it, lifting her feet from the floor. "Remember," she cried, "you must jump on the 12th chime of the bell. Don't lose track. Now go! Go!" Kara turned and ran. Another chime, and then her grandmother's voice calling one last request. "Kara, find the old one. Tell her the wanderer is weary." What Kara heard after that may have been a sob, but it was lost in the third toll of the bell, and she could not be certain. Speaking of which, we're going to switch up the music. Oh no, I got you. There it is. Okay. 3 strokes already. Kara ran faster, fearing she might not reach the top of the tower before the 12th chime, and at that thought her footsteps faltered. She was running as if she intended to actually jump. Did she? Could she? Hand on the rail, she spiraled up through the darkness, counting off the 4th and 5th chimes, and their pursuer, was he running up the stairs now too? Running toward Grandmother Morris? What if he caught her before she could toll the bell the 12th time? What then? She was breathing in great gasps. The back of her legs felt as if they were on fire. She heard the 6th chime, or was it the 7th? No, it was the 6th. It had to be the 6th. She mustn't lose count. Her free hand, the one not on the rail, clutched the amulet hanging from her neck. It felt warm. She opened her fingers. To her astonishment, the amulet was starting to glow. The 7th chime? 7th? It had to be the 7th, not the 8th. The glow of the amulet grew brighter. She loosened her grip on it, and light flowed from between her fingers, bright enough to light her way as she scurried up the worn wooden stairs, spiraling toward the top of the tower. At the 8th toll of the bell, she was sure it was the 8th. She came to a ladder. As she stepped on the first rung, she heard a scuffle break out below her. Cries of anger from her grandmother, from a deep male voice. She wanted to turn back to help, but her grandmother's urgent instructions had been to keep the amulet away from the man. Clambering up the ladder, she pushed with all her might at the trapdoor on the top. It wouldn't budge. For a terrified moment, she thought she would be trapped. A sudden cry of pain from her grandmother filled her with such a rage that without realizing what she was doing, she flung the door open. Footsteps from below. He was coming after her. And what of Grandmother Morris? What had he done to her? The bell tolled again. Kara smiled grimly. Whatever had happened, her grandmother still had the strength to work the rope. Kara couldn't let the old woman down now. She scrambled onto the roof of the tower, then stopped as a heavy male voice called from below, "Wait, Kara, Diana! Wait!" Terror froze her limbs. She had heard that voice before. Where? A cold wind whipped through her. The snow had turned from flakes to icy chips that stung her cheeks. She stumbled to the edge of the roof. Her senses reeled as she saw the white-covered world spread out beneath her. The 10th chime sounded. Again her grandmother's question, "Do you think I'm crazy?" Caroomed through her brain. The old woman had to be crazy, telling her to throw herself from the tower, yet the amulet, casting its fierce glow through the storm, said otherwise, said there was magic afoot. The next chime, the 11th, sounded as if she climbed onto the chest-high wall that circled the roof. Far below her, tiny dots were racing to get out of the storm. Were any of them racing to the church, racing to help her and her grandmother? She braced herself, ready to jump, or at least try, at the 12th chime. Silence. Fear clutched her heart. Had she miscounted? Had she missed the moment? If she jumped now, would she simply fall to her death? Racked by confusion, she tottered on the wall, staring at the world so far below. Cold fear wound its way through her body. A sound behind her. The pursuer had made it to the top of the stairs. Then the bell tolled once more, the 12th and final time. And ahead of her, a ball of light blossomed in the sky, its color the same spring green as the light flowing from between her fingers. Clutching the amulet, Kara whispered, "Lester, bring me home." "Wait!" cried the man. Snow whirled around her. The wind whipped through her hair. Leaning forward, Kara threw herself from the tower. And that is where we will end for tonight. Yeah. It's an exciting start to a story, just to say there's 2 chapters. But I missed last week because we took a break from the week before because we finished the series of unfortunate events. And then I was supposed to start last week, but I was working doubles back to back, so I was very, very, very busy. So, I will see you all tomorrow for chapter 3. Love and appreciate you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.